Hey, what's going on? Where are you right now? Well, I just left the house, like you said. Is there a problem? My name is Emily. I'm a 35-year-old housewife living with my in-laws. My husband Max is on an overseas assignment, so it's just me at home with them. My father-in-law had a stroke last year, leaving him with a bit of paralysis on his left side. Despite that, he's actively working on his rehab and moving his body. As a result, it took some time, but he's recovered enough to handle most of his daily activities. Originally, my father-in-law made a name for himself as an investor. Before marrying Max, I used to work at a brokerage firm, so I really admire him. Living together has given us the chance to often discuss investments and assess management, and I think we've built a very good relationship. My mother-in-law, Helen, is a person who laughs softly and never engages in what people typically call bullying. She seems delighted watching father-in-law and me discuss financial matters. Emily, it's so good for your dad to have someone to talk to. He won't be bedridden, and it looks like we won't have to worry about dementia for a while. The way mother-in-law tenderly supports father-in-law is something I aspire to. I want Max and me to be a couple like them. I really feel that way. However, lately, I've noticed that mother-in-law seems to be struggling more as she sits on the sofa. We had her tested at the hospital and found that she's getting physically weaker. Her blood pressure is also a bit high, and the doctor advised her to take it easy. Mother-in-law, you've been holding down the fort here for so long. Please, take some time for yourself. I said that as I comforted her and took over the housework. But that's not fair to you, Emily. You have to take care of Dad, too. Father-in-law can manage his showers and using the bathroom on his own. All he needs is someone to accompany him on walks and doctor visits. Emily. At this point, I came up with a proposal to reassure my mother-in-law. How about I ask Mom to join Dad on his daily walks? It'll be like a daily walking date for the two of them. I can't believe you, Emily. Well, I guess we'll take you up on your offer until I'm feeling better. Leave it to me. And so, life with my parents-in-law continued peacefully. My only concern was my sister-in-law, Sophia. Sophia constantly throws passive-aggressive comments my way. So, Emily, still no kids? Max is overseas, and these things happen when they happen. Can't even give birth to an heir, what a waste. We'll try to meet your expectations once Max is back in the country. Don't get too comfortable. I also have inheritance rights to this family's assets. It's just like that. I could directly confront her, but it's exhausting, and I don't want to upset my parents-in-law. Ignoring her gracefully is where I show my skills. Maybe Sophia thinks I married into the family to inherit my wealthy father-in-law's assets. It's common to have a mother-in-law-father-in-law feud, but in my case, it's with my sister-in-law. One day, I was having tea with my in-laws on our sunny porch. Emily, I have something to discuss with you. For the first time, mother-in-law looked serious. Yes, mother-in-law, what is it? Actually, Sophia is going to give birth soon, and she wants to temporarily stay at her parents' house to get support from our family. Oh, is it that time already? That's wonderful news. I sipped my tea as I responded. Given that your father is unwell and have also been under the weather, making you handle the household chores, we're thinking of declining her request. I agree. It wouldn't be fair to impose more on you, Emily. My father-in-law looked genuinely concerned as he spoke. Oh, don't worry about that. I'm sure Sophia will be more comfortable at her parents' house. Besides, you two will be close by to watch over your grandchild. I'm happy to help out. Let's have Sophia come over. Upon hearing my nonchalant answer, my mother-in-law's face clouded even more. Thank you, Emily. To be honest, we'd love to have Sophia here so we can see our grandchild up close. But the way she's been treating you is truly regrettable. Your mother's not feeling her best these days either. In the end, it seems like the burden will fall on you, Emily, and that's concerning. My father-in-law also seemed to worry about me. Sophia has made snide comments to me several times, but for the sake of my in-laws, I choose not to retaliate. This has apparently led to Sophia getting more audacious, in turn causing unnecessary worry for my in-laws. Did I mess up here? Once the baby arrives, Sophia might mellow down. I'd love to see you two enjoy your grandchild. What I truly wanted to say was that I wouldn't be beaten by the likes of Sophia, but I just grinned and bore it. If you say so, then maybe it's okay to invite Sophia. I promise to take care of her as much as I can. My mother-in-law finally showed a smile. My father-in-law also seemed relieved. At first, maybe it was because the baby would be born to their biological daughter. They wanted to be close to the experience. Emily, we're truly sorry, and thank you. Both my father-in-law and mother-in-law bowed their heads. Hey, no need to bow. Let's lift our spirits. Prepare a room for sister-in-law and go shopping. I can't wait. Can I come along to choose some clothes and toys for the grandchild? All three of us laughed, wrapping up the discussion. My stay at my in-laws while sister-in-law gave birth was likely going to be just a month or two. I thought I'd just have to avoid any sister-in-law drama during that short time. That's what I thought. Until that phone call from sister-in-law. My mother-in-law quickly conveyed her consent to sister-in-law, agreeing that she could stay with the family temporarily while she gave birth. After dinner, my phone rang. It was sister-in-law. Hello, sister-in-law. How can I help you? Hey, Emily. I'm going to be staying at our parents' house for my upcoming childbirth. Yes, mother-in-law told me earlier today. Sister-in-law was speaking loudly. Maybe she was in a good mood. My in-laws paused, realizing the call was from sister-in-law, just by the voice leaking from my phone. It was loud enough for them to hear even without a speaker. So, can you get out? What? I couldn't help but raise my voice in shock. My in-laws were equally surprised and jumped a little. I don't even want to look at you. Just seeing you irritates me. Make sure you're out of the house by the time I get back. Sister-in-law, what are you talking about? Tell Mom and Dad you're going on an extended trip or visiting Max. I don't care. Just get out. I want to spend time with my family. Wait, hold on. Normally, I could easily dodge sister-in-law's barbs, but this time I was too shocked to find the right words. Once I'm back, you better come back too. You need to take care of Dad, who needs long-term care, and my weak mom. Sister-in-law! I won't take care of them. That's your job as the daughter-in-law. Be grateful I'm giving you a reason to stay in the house. That's awful. How can you say that about your own parents? Enraged by sister-in-law's cruel words, I couldn't help but shout at her. Ooh, scary. I'll just tell Dad and Mom that you yelled at their pregnant daughter. I clenched my mobile phone and tears started to fall. Using my parents only for the birth and then ignoring them? They're such wonderful, kind people. I couldn't hold back my tears of anger and frustration. Glancing at mother-in-law, I noticed her face was red with rage, tears gathering in her eyes. In that moment, my own sister-in-law told me she wouldn't take care of her family. The frustration was overwhelming. Just then, father-in-law tugged on my sleeve. When I turned around, father-in-law had a note in hand. It's okay. We have a plan. Just agree to what Sophia is saying for now and hang up the phone. I read the note, and father-in-law patted my arm with a reassuring smile. As if to calm my nerves, his touch was light. Seeing father-in-law smile, I felt a wave of relief wash over me. Though my insides were boiling with anger, I was able to regain my composure. Understood. When are you planning to come back? Maybe next Friday. Then I'll make arrangements to leave the house by that time. You should have just listened from the start. Dealing with a stubborn sister-in-law is so tiresome. I have to clean up after dinner, if you'll excuse me. As soon as I hung up the phone, mother-in-law broke down in tears and hugged me. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. To have a daughter who'd say such horrible things, I'm so sorry. Mother-in-law's tears were flowing freely. I'm fine, mother-in-law. You must be the one feeling terrible after hearing all of that. I wasn't concerned about what sister-in-law had to say. I could silence her with logical arguments if need be. It's not a big deal. But it's hard to see my mother-in-law cry like this. I'm really very sorry. You've been very patient, my father-in-law sighed. Don't worry about me. What's your plan, though? I asked him, trying to comfort my mother-in-law. Well, turns out there's another person struggling with Sophia. We're planning to discipline her together. Another person having issues with Sophia? I was puzzled. Who else could be dealing with her? We've only got 10 days until Sophia comes home to have her baby and seek the family support. No time for tears. We need to start planning how to handle her. Yes, this is where you, Emily, will prove your worth. My mother-in-law wiped her tears and stood up. My worth? I had no idea what she meant. Shortly after, Evan, Sophia's husband, came to visit. Good evening, everyone. I apologize for Sophia's terrible behavior. Evan bowed to my parents-in-law and me as he entered. Emily, meet the other person who's been grappling with Sophia, my father-in-law said with a smile. Before joining this family, I worked in a brokerage firm, as did Evan. We knew each other professionally. I don't mind what she says about me, but I can't forgive her how she talks to you two. I vented my frustration about Sophia to my brother-in-law. He scratched his head and sighed. Look, there's no excuse for her. Even when I tried to correct her, she loses her temper. Her already spoiled nature has gotten worse with her pregnancy. My own daughter told Emily to leave while she stays here to give birth. Can you believe it? My mother-in-law was angrier than I had ever seen her. I get why you and my father-in-law get along. You're in the same line of work. It seemed fun. Sophia probably just couldn't stand it. Wait, so she's jealous because I get along with you and my mother-in-law? I was dumbfounded. She hurt her parents this much out of petty jealousy? And there's one more unbelievable thing. My brother-in-law began to talk about Sophia's actions. Are you kidding me? This makes no sense. I couldn't believe my ears. My hands were shaking from anger. I'm at a loss too. I've even consulted with my father-in-law about what to do. My mother-in-law looked like she was throwing in the towel. At this point, I was fuming. She plans to rely on her parents' home like nothing happened. She should have been confronted head-on. In hindsight, I regretted my naivety. Father-in-law sighed, looking disappointed. Add this latest mess to the mix and I'm done giving her any slack. She's my daughter, but enough is enough. Your conversations with father-in-law have finally paid off. My conversations with father-in-law? Wait a minute, you mean... Something clicked in my mind, recalling a discussion I'd had with father-in-law in the past. We might as well go all in. Get ready, Evan. Yes, father-in-law. Mother-in-law finally cracked a smile. All right, Emily, we've got a busy week to prepare everything. We're going to be busy. Absolutely, mother-in-law. Let's do this. I rolled up my sleeves and followed mother-in-law. The next Friday, as planned, sister-in-law returned home temporarily to seek family support for her childbirth. I wonder if that annoying woman finally left. Now I can just laze around here for a while. Maybe I should just move back home for good. Sister-in-law hummed as she walked onto the property. Then, right in front of the house, she dropped her bags and froze. What is this? What stood before her was, indeed, her parents' home. Well, it used to be their home. Now the gate was locked, the name plaque removed, and a for sale sign was prominently displayed. The windows were bare, and the house obviously looked abandoned. What's going on? Why is nobody here? Sister-in-law frantically called both father-in-law and mother-in-law, but neither answered. They'd had enough and blocked her number. Even social media was blocked. Why aren't Mom and Dad answering? Maybe she will... Sister-in-law seemed to get the idea to call me. Hello, sister-in-law, what's going on? I answered her desperate call, cool as a cucumber. Sister-in-law, anything but composed, started shouting right away. What's the meaning of this? My parents' house is for sale! She was loud enough that father-in-law and mother-in-law could probably hear without even needing speakerphone. I moved the phone away from my ear and replied, That house and the property have been sold. There's no place for you to temporarily stay while seeking family support for childbirth. Sold? What do you mean? We were told to leave by you, so we did. Don't joke with me. How can my parents' house be sold just because you left? Well, the house is in my name. Why keep it just for you? What are you talking about? You sold the house without telling my dad? You thief! I'll sue you! Seemingly forgetting she's pregnant, sister-in-law was yelling in a fit of rage. I let out an exaggerated sigh. Did you not hear what I said, sister-in-law? The house is in my name. So why is my parents' house in your name? That's insane! Because I bought it when father-in-law got discharged after his stroke. You bought it? Yes, father-in-law had become somewhat downhearted after recovering from a stroke. He'd lost confidence, having stepped away from his investments during the recuperation. That's when we started talking about restructuring assets. My husband can't act quickly. He's usually abroad for work. And if we left it up to selfish sister-in-law, She'd probably only take the assets that suited her. Father-in-law, how about we liquidate all assets into cash? That would make management easier. I suggested we convert all the assets to cash, making it easier for father-in-law to manage. That's when I purchased the family home, using savings from my single days and from my husband. By putting it in my name, I took on all the tedious procedures like property taxes. We let my parents-in-law continue to live there so they could spend the rest of their lives in the home they loved. That was until sister-in-law messed it all up. What are you doing? Where are you? We left the house just like you asked. Anything else? Don't mess with me. Where are Mom and Dad? They'd never allow this. Sister-in-law still seems to think her parents are on her side. It's almost laughable how naive her thinking is. Father-in-law and mother-in-law are with me. We sold the house, but we've arranged another one. Then I'm coming there too. That's not possible. You're blocked by father-in-law and mother-in-law, remember? They don't want to see you. I say it coldly. Sister-in-law seems taken aback, especially when I mention being blocked. You may not have noticed, sister-in-law, but father-in-law and mother-in-law heard that phone call when you told me to leave. Sister-in-law's face visibly pales. Her earlier bravado instantly deflates. She clearly had no idea they'd heard that call. Listen, can you tell Mom and Dad it's a misunderstanding? I'm about to have a baby. I need help. It's going to be tough postpartum. Sister-in-law changes her tune, suddenly playing the victim. That's when I play my final card. Why not ask the guy you've been cheating with for help? How do you know about that? The unbelievable thing brother-in-law told me about was sister-in-law's affair. We knew because the timing of sister-in-law's pregnancy coincided with brother-in-law's long business trip. Brother-in-law already had screenshots and other evidence of the affair. Sister-in-law had planned for brother-in-law to raise the child she was expecting with her affair partner. I gotta tell you, brother-in-law is pretty angry too. Wouldn't be surprised if you get dumped, I say in a half-joking tone. Then the phone abruptly hangs up. She's probably scrambling to call brother-in-law right now. Brother-in-law has already expressed his intentions to divorce and seek alimony. My in-laws are cutting off communication with sister-in-law and moving to exclude her from any inheritance. We're leaving our estate in the hands of Max and Emily, they decided. Emily's involvement has made it so much easier. The estate is just money now. It really simplifies the management and paperwork, they add. Father-in-law had recorded the call that angered them from halfway through. With the evidence held by my in-laws and brother-in-law, sister-in-law lost both her family and her share of the inheritance. A month has passed since. Sister-in-law and her husband Evan are now divorced. She faced indisputable evidence of her affair and was hit with a hefty settlement in divorce court. Apparently, she left the home she shared with brother-in-law, pregnant belly and all. Word is she gave birth alone and quietly, and now lives in an old public housing unit, raising the child by herself. Struggling to care for the baby on her own, she receives help from no one. Why is nobody calling me? I'm tired. I'm lonely. I'm broke, she laments. Rumor has it, even her affair partner abandoned her just before the baby was born. She hasn't been able to establish paternity or receive child support. Sister-in-law ended up living on temporary assistance for needy families while paying off the alimony debt. She has to find a job and support herself before she can start repaying her debt. When will sister-in-law ever be debt-free? If she'd truly loved and valued the in-laws, even with a child from her affair, she wouldn't have ended up alone. The child is innocent and is the first grandchild for the in-laws. If sister-in-law can genuinely apologize for her mistakes, both we and the in-laws are open to helping her. Today, I'm having tea with the in-laws in our new home. Emily, what's your take on the Willowbrook Mart? Well, I still think they will rise. What's your opinion, father-in-law? I'm inclined to think they'll go up, but I can't be sure. Father-in-law was looking puzzled when mother-in-law peeked at the papers. Oh, talking about Willowbrook Mart. They're really popular right now for their new desserts, she said, laughing. We both chuckled. Your mother-in-law seems to know more about the stores than we do. Having mother-in-law check out the stores of companies we're interested in investing in is a good research strategy. It's not about the money. I genuinely love these wonderful in-laws. Ever since becoming estranged from sister-in-law, I've been free from her influence. With my expertise in asset management, I've been able to alleviate the in-laws' concerns for their retirement. As I await my husband's return, my days are filled with peaceful smiles.
I'm pregnant with your husband's child. What? So please divorce him and leave. I'm begging you. What are you talking about all of a sudden? I'm serious. I couldn't believe what she was saying, and then she even prostrated herself. I was shocked to hear she was pregnant, but I never imagined she would go as far as begging for a divorce on her knees. But she was mistaken if she thought I didn't know anything. At that moment, I had an idea. If you want to divorce that badly, I have one condition. A condition? It's probably nothing serious, so fine. Really? I taunted my sister. She, being competitive, showed a defiant attitude, just as I had planned. You wouldn't do that, right? But she didn't understand. She didn't realize that this condition would be something she'd have to carry for the rest of her life. I took a deep breath and looked her straight in the eye. I'm fine with the divorce, but in return, you'll take care of the 3 daughters I've raised so far. What are you talking about? Why should I? They're your kids, right? Well, technically, they're not blood related to me. They're adopted. That's not the point, because those 3 children are. My husband and sister didn't know the truth I had been hiding. What did they think it was like to raise 3 daughters? Now that it had come to this, I would make my sister atone for her sins, including everything up to this point. My heart was burning with a hatred I had never felt before. Don't talk nonsense. Then, shall I show you the evidence? Then do it. And so my sister took her first step into hell. My name is Anne. I'm a housewife who just turned 43. I met my husband Ethan when we worked at the same company. We were the same age and joined the company in the same year. Do you want to go out for a drink sometime? I have something I want to talk about. If you're treating, sure. Again? Well, can't be helped. You're always helping me, so it's only natural. At first, we were colleagues and friends. I even gave Ethan advice on his love life. And then when Ethan experienced the heartbreak, our relationship suddenly grew closer. I'm thinking of... What are you saying? I did it because I wanted to, so don't worry about it. Oh, I see, but... At that time, I didn't have romantic feelings, but as I watched Ethan heartbroken, I realized that I had fallen in love with him. I acted quickly after that realization. Though I felt a bit cunning, I confessed my feelings to Ethan. It was a success and we started dating. Time passed and we got married in the second summer of our relationship. Let's build a good family together from now on. Yeah, let's do that. Yeah, it might be a bit early, but I'm thinking I want 2 kids. Our relationship was already solid, so I wasn't too worried about starting a new life together. But I never thought of my own family would get in the way. The cause of that was my sister Ivy. What? It's fine, just give it to me. It's not fair that you're the only one who gets it. Not fair? This is something I bought for myself. You should buy your own. As a sister, it's only natural. My sister would take newly bought cosmetics without asking, Maybe it was a mistake to invite her to our new home. Ever since we were little, she always wanted what was mine. That didn't change even as we grew up. Wait a minute! See you, sis. Be careful not to let anyone take anything more important next time. What do you mean? I don't know, maybe you should think about it yourself. Even though we've been like this since we were kids, I've only ever scolded her. Despite her annoying traits, she's still my blood-related sister, and that naive thought would lead to an irreversible situation. We did it! Yay! Now that we're going to have a new family member, we have to work even harder. 4 years after getting married, we had our first child. I resigned from my job and became a full-time housewife, but 6 months later, something devastating happened. I was in so much pain from abdominal cramps that I called an ambulance. What do you mean? Unfortunately, you've had a miscarriage. No, that can't be. We did everything we could. I couldn't think of anything. I don't even remember how I got home. I couldn't think of what to say to my husband. I'm home. Ah, welcome back. What's wrong with your face? Huh? Yeah. My husband must have sensed something from my expression and spoke to me gently. Can you talk about it slowly? Feeling reassured by his words, my emotions overflowed and I cried as I told him about what happened today. My husband was shocked, but he said, "It's not your fault. It's okay." Thank you. Let's take it easy for now. We tried to have children again after some time, but we couldn't. Moreover, after seeing a doctor, we found out that it's difficult for me to get pregnant and I'm prone to miscarriages. This made me feel like I had fallen into an even deeper hell. And to make matters worse, a troublesome person started coming around frequently. That's too bad, sis. Yes, it is. But it's okay. It's not over yet. I hope so. So, I have a favor to ask. Could you listen to it? My sister never hesitates with me. Despite knowing my current situation, she didn't care about it at all. Those seemingly worried words earlier had no sincerity in them. What's the favor? Oh yeah, could you lend me some money? What? I'm in a bit of a bind. Just a little would do. Thinking it would be too troublesome to argue, I handed her the last $300 I had in my wallet. Well, that's about it. By the way, where's Ethan? He went out because he had plans with friends. Well, okay. Thanks anyway. See you. With that, my sister left. From that point on, she stopped coming to our house, and then peaceful days continued. One day, my husband made a suggestion. I was thinking, what if we adopt a child? Adopt? I was taken aback by his sudden suggestion. It was true that we hadn't been able to have children, but it wasn't like the possibility was completely zero. Yeah, I thought it might be better than relying on the slim chance. That might be true, but... Of course, I'm not saying right away, I just want you to think about it. Okay. I was very conflicted. I understood my husband's point, but I still couldn't give up on having our own child. After about a month of careful thought, I decided to talk to my husband when he came home. About the adoption you mentioned before. What about it? I've thought about it, and maybe you're right, Ethan. I see. Even if there's no blood relation, they would still be our child. Yeah, that's true. And I'll take care of all the paperwork and procedures. Really? Thank you. My husband's eyes were filled with hope, and so we decided to adopt a child. Her name is Elma. She was only about 2 years old, but she was very understanding and a good child. Around the same time, my sister started visiting again. I didn't know where she had been or what she had been doing, but she came back to beg for things and money. So, you adopted a child, right? It's good since you can't have children. Yes, that's right. Huh? How do you know about that? My sister made a face as if she had slipped up. Ah, I happened to meet Ethan the other day. He told me then. She was touching her earlobe without looking at me. I knew it. When my sister acts like this, she's lying. Oh, where did you meet him? Where was it again? I'll ask Ethan about it next time. It doesn't matter anyway. She clearly tried to change the subject. Her desperation made me think she had been in contact with my husband for a long time. Is this a limited edition item? Can I have this? Were you listening to me? Of course I was, but it's none of my business, right? I'm your sister, so it's fine. Just buy another one. Don't touch it! I tried to take back the cosmetics she had picked up, but she resisted and we both ended up falling. That's when my husband came home. What are you doing? Are you okay? Huh? My husband didn't speak to me but went straight to my sister. Why did this happen? Then my sister looked at me and smirked. I just wanted to look at my sister's cosmetics and she said not to touch them. I just wanted to see. What? What are you talking about? Did you really do that? No, Maybe she thought I was going to steal them. You saw your sister in that light? My husband believed my sister's words without listening to me. Eventually, the cosmetics that my husband had gifted me ended up in my sister's hands. And I was certain, these two had a deeper relationship than I thought. I was blamed unilaterally, and my sister left with a triumphant expression. Don't ever do that again. But that was no excuses. It's not like that, actually. It doesn't matter. Huh? Just get along with your sister. Without letting me say anything, my husband took my sister aside. And then an incident became the trigger for me to seek revenge on both of them. My relationship with my husband worsened because of my sister. Our conversations gradually disappeared, and my only emotional support was my daughter Elma. Even though she was young, she seemed to be worried about me and started staying by my side even when there was no particular reason. Are you okay, Mom? Thank you, I'm okay. I'm glad. But even my daughter started to speak less. Sometimes she wouldn't even respond when I called her. And then I realized something. My sister had visited our house before my daughter started acting coldly. She might have said something unnecessary to my daughter. That suspicion never cleared. Before I knew it, several years had passed. I'm home. When I returned home, I found unfamiliar shoes in the entrance. Moreover, they were unusually small, apparently children's shoes. They weren't my daughter's. A bad feeling rushed over me as I hurried into the house. Welcome back. Huh? Who's this child? Oh, this is our new family member. What are you talking about? For a moment, my head went blank and I felt dizzy. Hey, are you okay? Yes. Can you explain what's going on? We've adopted a new child. Why would you do something like that without asking me? Hey, don't raise your voice like that. I was overwhelmed by an indescribable emotion. I couldn't understand why he would do such a thing in the first place. Why? Well, I thought Elma might be lonely being an only child. She seems happy about it too, my husband answered with a smile. But once he had brought the child home, there was no turning back. Thus, a life filled with complex emotions began. That would have been fine on its own, but it was 2 years later that things got even more complicated. By this time, I was already 40 years old. You've got to be kidding me. I had gone back to my hometown for a while, and when I returned home, there was yet another unfamiliar face. Could it be that this child is also... Yeah, you guessed it, that's right. It was the third one. Just when I was getting used to life with 4 of us, our family grew again. It should have been a happy occasion, but the circumstances leading up to it were far from ordinary. Moreover, my husband seemed pleased with himself, thinking he had done something good, which I found annoying. Let's get along well from now on. And so our new life as a family of 5 began. Watching the 3 daughters, they seemed like real sisters. I felt they even looked a bit alike. Then, an event that made me realize this happened. My sister came to visit again. It's been a while, big sis. Yes, it has. I was on guard. She usually came to our house to beg for something, but this time was different. Instead of doing something to me, she actively engaged with my daughters. Her usual domineering attitude was gone, and her eyes were filled with affection. Ah, that's it. I realized what was bothering me about my 3 daughters. They resembled my sister. Their eyes and facial features were strikingly similar. Is something wrong? I was just thinking that those kids look like my sister. Looking at them, they seem more like her children than yours. My husband showed a surprised expression, but then he made a sarcastic remark to hide it. Huh? I just thought they do look like her now that you mention it. Got a problem with that? Not really. Ethan's reaction at that moment stuck in my mind. And then my sister started coming over every week, taking over the care of my daughters in my place. 3 more years passed and I turned 43. As usual, my sister came over and was chatting with the girls. I noticed you all touch your earlobes a lot. Huh? I just thought it's interesting how you all have similar habits. Really? I guess it's just normal. At this point, a thought crossed my mind. Even if the kids were my sisters, it wouldn't feel out of place. A few days later, I couldn't stop thinking about it as if I were cursed. To dispel this, I did something without telling anyone. What are you doing there? Oh, just cleaning. Cleaning that spot? Yeah. Well, okay then. Just hurry up with dinner, will you? Yes. I was looking for strands of my daughter's hair. It was something I absolutely needed. This couldn't be discovered by anyone. And I also needed to get something from my sister. I had never wished so much for my sister to come over quickly. Welcome. The next weekend my sister came over. You seem in a bad mood. Do I? I'm just normal. And so, I also got what I needed from my sister. When I thought everything was ready, I decided to secure some from my husband just in case. Then I commissioned a suitable investigative agency. It wasn't cheap, but I decided to overlook the cost this time. A month after the results arrived, my sister came over with an unusual demeanor and said something shocking. I'm pregnant with Ethan's child. What? So please divorce him and leave. I'm begging you. What are you talking about all of a sudden? I'm serious. I was shocked to hear she was pregnant, but I never imagined she would go as far as begging for a divorce on her knees. But she was mistaken if she thought I didn't know anything. At that moment, I had an idea. If you want to divorce that badly, I have one condition. A condition? It can't be that big of a deal, so fine. Really? I taunted my sister. She, being competitive, showed a defiant attitude, just as I had planned. There's no way I'd do that! But she didn't understand. She didn't realize that this condition would be something she'd have to carry for the rest of her life. I took a deep breath and looked her straight in the eye. I'm fine with the divorce, but in return, you'll take care of the 3 daughters I've raised so far. What do you mean? Why should I? They're your kids, right? Well, technically, they're not blood related to me. They're adopted. That's not the point. Because those 3 children are... Just then, my husband came home from work. I'm home. What's going on? Seeing his reaction, I thought how insincere he was. My sister says she's pregnant with your child. That's not a response. Do you even realize what you've done? My husband was clearly flustered. From his reaction, it seemed he didn't know about my sister's pregnancy. Did you not know? This is the first time I've heard of it. I didn't know she was pregnant. But whether my husband knew or not didn't matter to me. That wasn't the important part. About the 3 children, I know something. I can tell you now if you want. I looked back and forth between the 2 of them. What do you know? My husband seemed to have understood what I was about to say. Wait, just wait a second. There's no need to wait. Let me say it. Who are the real parents of these 3 children? I don't know. I haven't heard anything about that. Really? But that's a lie, isn't it? The real parents are you, aren't they? I pointed at my sister. What did they think it was like to raise 3 daughters? Now that it had come to this, I would make my sister atone for her sins, including everything up to this point. My heart was burning with a hatred I had never felt before. Don't talk nonsense. Then, shall I show you the evidence? Then do it. And so my sister took her first step into hell. Just wait a moment. I went to the bedroom and brought back something from the drawer. I presented it to both of them. I had requested a DNA test for my daughters and my sister a little while ago. The results showed that they were parent and child. How about this? There's no escaping the truth now, is there? But that's... My sister tried to make excuses even when faced with the evidence. But once it was scientifically proven that they were parent and child, there was no escape for her. You really thought of something, didn't you? You were willing to give up your own daughters just to spite me? Then my sister began to reveal what she had been holding inside. Of course! Ever since we were little, you were always the one praised and I was just a good-for-nothing sister! It was true, as my sister said, but that was just the talk of foolish adults who could only see things superficially. I don't remember our parents ever saying such things, but those were unrelated people. Our family never said anything like that. That's a lie, of course. My sister seemed to remember something. Now that I think about it, when I was graduating high school, it was when she was in her senior year of high school and wanted to go to college. A few years before that, I had also considered further education, but financially, only one of us could go. Our parents were inclined to prioritize me as the eldest. Do you remember? That was because I chose to work instead of going to college. But why would you do that? Because I knew you could do it if you tried. You just got a little wayward because of what others said. My sister had great potential, she just never used it. So all this was just misplaced resentment? That's ridiculous. You just rushed ahead and misunderstood everything. Then why didn't you tell me sooner? Even if I told you the truth, you wouldn't have believed it. My sister fell silent, probably unwilling to admit that all her actions were based on a misunderstanding. By doing so, she had strayed from her path. Leaving my disoriented sister aside, I had to talk properly to the other person. Now, it's your turn. I didn't know anything about this, so it's not my problem. He tried to leave, but I grabbed his arm and stopped him. Planning to run away? It's not like that. Then, sit down and listen. I made my husband sit on the sofa and continued the conversation. Continuing from earlier, you're the father of those children, right? What? How does that make sense? You saw the interaction earlier, right? I became curious and had your hair tested too, and it turned out exactly as I expected. That's ridiculous. Thought you wouldn't get caught? Too bad. Fooling others is one thing, but thinking you could fool me is 100 years too early. My husband's attitude had been strange ever since he brought the children home as adopted. Above all, the way my sister looked at the children was that of a mother. Even if it was assumed that all the children he brought home as adopted were my sister's daughters, such a coincidence was impossible. I had thought my husband was somehow involved, but I never imagined he was the father. Anything you want to say? I guess not. What are you planning to do now? I'll grant you the divorce as my sister wishes. After all, this is a clear case of infidelity. But I don't need any alimony or anything like that. Is that so? In return, take all the children. All of them? All 3? Yes, that's right. Are you okay with that? I had intended to raise them as my own daughters all this time. There were times when they were ignored, but they were still my beloved daughters. But my mind was made up. Of course, I'll feel lonely, but living with their real parent is what's best for them, right? Having vowed to take revenge, I couldn't do things halfway. The anger of being deceived for so many years doesn't just disappear easily. Besides, I've already prepared the divorce papers just for a moment like this. Being told about the pregnancy by my sister was unexpected, but I saw it as an opportunity. Are you serious? I'm serious, so could you please sign here quickly? Of course, not signing isn't an option. With that, I made my husband sign on the spot. I wanted to leave this place with the divorce paper as soon as possible. I'll take care of submitting these myself. Are you leaving? Don't ask obvious questions. I can't stay here anymore. You two can do as you please from now on. Then my sister, who had been in despair just a moment ago, called out to me. Wait, big sis, I'm sorry for everything up until now. I sighed. This is what you wanted, right? Good for you. I'm no longer involved. How can you say that? Right. After giving up the children all this time, now you suddenly want to be with Ethan. It's too convenient. Don't worry, they're all your daughters. My sister had gone so far as to put her own children in an institution just to trouble me. That was something a parent should never do. She would receive her retribution for that. Leaving those words behind, I left the house. It was raining outside, but my heart felt clear. After leaving, I headed to my parents' house. I hadn't been in much contact with them, but this time was different. After explaining the situation somehow, my parents also sighed deeply. So, what will you do now? For now, I guess I'll move somewhere, and I need to find a job. Then, should I ask Dad? He mentioned someone he knows is looking for help. Really? That would be great. Let's talk about it when you get back. After that, I spent some peaceful days at my parents' house. 3 days later, I received a call from my husband. I was expecting it sooner or later. Hey, help me! What? It's a mess here since you left irresponsibly. What are you talking about? They're your children, so do your best. They haven't warmed up to me at all since you left. Isn't my sister there? Yeah, but I couldn't stand his selfish behavior anymore. Just figure it out on your own. Don't ever call me again. I hung up the phone and before submitting the divorce papers, went to see a lawyer. I had told my husband I wouldn't claim alimony, but I decided to claim it to make him understand his position. There was no more holding back after being deceived by him and then hearing his complaints. Then I received a call from my sister. The police came the other day. I don't know anything about it. It was definitely you. Well, it can't be helped, right? You did something stupid like putting your own daughters in an institution. The future awaiting my sister would be unimaginably harsh. And so I began living alone. I got a job thanks to my father's introduction, and everything was starting from now. I was alone, but I was filled with hope. Thank you for watching the video all the way to the end. If you resonated with the content, please leave a positive rating and a comment.